Getting started on your Cricut journey can be both expensive and overwhelming. So I'm going to go through a list of items that you'll need in the beginning to help get you started on your journey. My name is Kelly and let's get clacking. One of the most important things that you'll need is a tool set. Now, the Cricut Essential tool set comes with a large number of things that you will need while you're doing your everyday crafting. It comes with the paper trimmer, which I use all the time, and part of the paper trimmer there's a little fold out arm to help you measure your slightly longer items. It also comes with a spare blade as well as a scoring blade. So that little black one, if you didn't know, is a scoring blade, and both of these blades fit underneath the paper trimmers. Eventually, after a while, it does get a little bit blunt. You'll be able to replace them and the blades will be right underneath the little paper trimmer. The tool set also comes with a weeding tool. Now, this is probably one of the items that you're going to end up using the most because I use it all the time for pretty much all of my crafts and, non-craft things as well. It is fantastic for weeding iron-on or heat transfer vinyl, as well as just normal adhesive vinyl, by digging in the point and pulling up the excess that you don't need. Now, this toolkit also comes with a pair of scissors, and I'm not gonna lie, they're not my favorite scissors, but if you don't have a pair, then they're better than nothing. It comes with a spatula, which is great for lifting pieces of cardstock up off your mat or even cleaning your mat. It comes with a little scraper, and the scraper is a little bit better at cleaning your mat than the spatula. It also comes with a scoring stylus. Now, if you have a Cricut Joy, then you won't be able to use this in your machine, but it's still fantastic to be able to use outside of your machine if you want to score things. You can just use a ruler and the scoring stylus acts like a pen. It's actually one of my favorite tools in the toolkit. It also comes with a set of reverse tweezers. Not gonna lie, never really gotten the hang of these, so I personally don't use them, but I know lots of people that do, so maybe it might be useful to you. I would recommend getting the 13-inch tool set if you do have one, just purely because the trimmer is a little bit larger, so if you do work with smart materials, you've got a little bit more room to play with. I find it very useful to be able to have just an extra inch or an extra 2.54 centimeters to play with, even if I'm not using smart materials. If you're finding this information helpful, please give this video a thumbs up and let me know what the first tool was that you bought when you started with your Cricut journey. If you would like to support the channel, consider joining. We have monthly live streams and maybe a couple of extra benefits that I might add in the future. It really helps me to bring more videos like this to you and help you along your craft journey. The next tool that I would suggest that you have as a beginner is something that I've never heard somebody say before, and it's patience. Just remember that you are starting out a new craft. You need to be patient and kind with yourself. If you make a mistake, that is fantastic. That's what we call paying school fees. So you're going to school, you're learning a new skill. These things are going to take time. Please be patient with yourself. Making a mistake means that you learn what not to do, and the next time you're going to do the thing, you're going to not do the thing that you did the first time. Or in my case, maybe the second or the third time, you're not going to do it. But please be patient with yourself. Please be kind with yourself. Like I said, you're learning a new skill. You didn't immediately stand up and walk the first time that you learned to walk. So these things do take time. Don't worry, you've got this. It's my absolute favorite tool I'm going to keep for the end, so make sure that you watch the entire video to get all of the tips and tricks. And subscribe for more videos in the future. But my next favorite tool is the True Control Knife. Now, I've used many different craft knives in my life. The Cricut brand one is honestly one of my favorites, purely because of the locking mechanism that it has. So I find that the blades pop out all the time, and it really irritates me when they pop out. So this one has a little lock, so you turn the back of the craft knife and it locks the blade into place so that it can't come out. You do also get one that comes with 5 spare blades, which is really nice, as it's very nice to have some spare blades lying around for when eventually they go dull. Now, of course, working with the True Control Knife, you're going to scratch up your table or whatever surface that you're working on. So if you don't already have a self-healing mat, then I would recommend getting one. Cricut does have a 12 by 12 self-healing mat. It's a little bit on the pricey side, and although it is very nice, you can get a bigger one for a little bit cheaper. Try looking at P&A, or most craft shops should have self-healing mats, and if you are wanting a really big one, then a little pro tip is to try a sewing store. Some sewing shops have bigger self-healing mats and they're not particularly expensive. You're looking at probably around 500-600 Rand for one of those. It's about A2 size. When it comes to the materials that you're going to be buying for your projects, I wouldn't always recommend going for the best, most expensive materials right off the bat. Buy a little bit of the cheaper things just to make sure that you're getting the hang of actually cutting, the process of everything, and designing in the platform. Now, bear in mind that very often when we're working with the cheaper materials, we can have problems that we won't have with some of the more expensive materials. So if there is a problem that you are running into, please keep in mind that it might be because of the fact that you are using a slightly cheaper brand, and that's why it's not working. As an example, we have Oracle and Graphitac vinyl, and those work fantastically on other machines that you can control a few more of the aspects of cutting. As an example, the silhouette, you can control the speed that the machine cuts, as well as the pressure and the blade depth. But on Cricut, you can only control the force or the pressure. So very often I find that doing very intricate cuts on Oracle or Graphitac vinyl doesn't work very well on the Cricut machines. But with the Cricut brand vinyl, we all know that it is more expensive than the other brands, and I'm not going to get into a debate on whether it's better or not, but when it comes to doing very intricate cuts on the Cricut brand vinyl, that works better than the Graphitac or the Oracle vinyl on your Cricut machine, purely because the machines were designed around that. So like I said, if you're having problems, it might be because of the vinyl, so try using a different vinyl. But generally when we're starting out, we're not really sure on the processes. Maybe we want to get the hang of weeding or using transfer tape to transfer the vinyl from the backing onto your glass jar. And we don't always want to use the very expensive things to do that. So sometimes using the cheaper vinyls can help you get used to some of the process. And if you're not having all of those problems, then that is a good way to get started. And of course, when you're working with those kinds of things, you're going to want a more cost-effective way of creating your items. You wouldn't go and spend 500 Rand on an Adidas t-shirt to make a first iron-on project. Rather, go to the fabric shop, buy a meter of fabric, and play around with your iron or your heat press or whatever you have at your disposal, and rather test it on those materials. It has a much lower financial outlay at the beginning to get through those products and get used to the process of setting up your design, mirroring your design, cutting it, weeding it, and applying it. So you just want to get used to that whole process. So try and not use very expensive things. There are cheaper ways of going about it. When it comes to vinyl, if you're wanting to make some jars, use some leftover jars that you have in your house. Go to the Crazy Store or the Dollar Store and get cheaper items there that you can test and play around with. Your first few projects don't have to be a super high quality project. You just, like I said, you just want to get used to the process and work through all of the kinks. Something that'll also save you a lot of heartache is parchment or silicone paper. Now, this may be more applicable to you if you do a lot of vinyl layering, or if you're working with iron-on or heat transfer vinyl projects. Parchment or silicone paper with vinyl allows you to see through the vinyl so you can layer your projects more easily. And on heat transfer projects, it protects the garment that you're pressing onto. Now, please do not use wax paper. Wax melts under heat and it will destroy your garment. So please rather use parchment or silicone paper. And again, you should be able to get these from most vinyl suppliers as well as baking shops. They are relatively inexpensive. If you're wanting to go for a slightly higher end product, you can look at getting Teflon. That's a little bit more expensive, so you can always start out on these slightly cheaper options. Depending on what machine you've bought, you may have gotten mats with it. I always recommend to have additional cutting mats, especially if you're working with multiple layered projects, so it makes your workflow a bit better. But when you are starting out, I would recommend getting the standard grip mat, which is the green mat. That works for all of your cardstock. It works fantastically for iron-on, and some vinyls, not the paper-backed vinyls like your Graphitac and Oracle range, unless your mat is a little bit old. You don't need one of every single mat. The pink mat is your fabric mat and the purple mat is your strong grip mat. So you may not even need those two at this stage. So just stick to the light grip mat for paper and some light cardstocks, and the green mat for your heavier cardstocks, some vinyls and iron-ons if those are the projects that you're wanting to do. You don't need to buy every single mat out there, and you might not even use them for a little while. So keep that in mind. Another super inexpensive accessory that I would recommend that you get in the beginning is alcohol swabs. I use them for pretty much everything while I'm crafting, to clean up my space once I'm done, to clean off my blank before I apply my vinyl. So many different things that I use them for. Like I mentioned, they're relatively inexpensive. You should get away with between 30 and 60 Rand for a pack of about 100, and that'll last you for months. And for those of you in the US, it should be a couple of dollars for a whole bunch of these alcohol swabs. But they are incredibly useful, and I use them all the time. And the last absolute must-have Cricut beginner accessory item is the brayer. Now, you can buy the Cricut brand one, which is very nice because it's soft and squishy, but I know they can be a bit pricey, so you can probably also go for a speedball type brayer. I'm not sure on the exact price comparison, but this item is an absolute must-have. It helps you to apply your material to your mat properly so that when you're cutting the material, it won't come off the mat. Now, this is a very important tool to use because if your material isn't stuck to your mat properly, it will rip off while it's cutting because of the pressure that's being exerted. You can do this by hand, but I find it so much easier to do it with a brayer as it gives nice even pressure all across the mat. If you want a few more beginner tips, make sure to check out this playlist as it'll go over so many different things that you'll need to know as a Cricut beginner. Don't forget to subscribe for more Cricut videos in the future, and remember, be kind to someone today. See you soon.